I'm going to pick a fight with you, Matt.
Okay, ready.
You know how everybody wants a hunter versus a farmer? Anytime you talk to a salesperson, an owner of a staffing firm, they're like, I want a hunter. I
Right,
want someone who's going to go out, or I want a book of business. I don't want a
right.
farmer. I can't stand farmers.
Hmm.
I'm going to argue that farmers are actually your most profitable people, not just from a Neolithic agrarian standpoint, but from a
Yeah,
staffing standpoint. So, what
right.
do you think? Do you want a hard nosed hunter to go out and crack deals,
Hmm.
or do you prefer a farmer?
It depends on the agency. It depends on the market. If you got a good book of business and you just need to expand that, you've done a good job of creating and keeping customers, then you need a farmer. If you don't have any job orders, if you don't have any deals, you need somebody who's going to be bold, pick up the phone, get in their car, bring business in. So it really depends on where your business is.
Okay, that's a very nuanced and fair answer. I didn't expect that because normally when you're fighting about it, it's when someone says I need a hunter, I think that means you're not bringing in business. Because my
Because
my
you're
career,
not.
in all fairness, was farming, but
Mhm.
massive amounts of money. So I had Wells Fargo, Pfizer, and Citigroup. And when I walked in, Kforce had these big client contracts with them. In the end of the year, I was 30% of all the contractors at those three places. And
Mhm.
not just, not, if I had a contract so I could walk in, but I,
Right.
I did a different job. I was able to generate millions of dollars in revenue by farming
Mhm.
because the
Right.
jobs were there. And other people had
Sure.
been there, but they didn't do it. But every single manager, every owner was always like, I need a hunter. I need a hunter.
Well, if I can interject, so um, in the staffing industry, the average churn is about 75% a year, which means for every four accounts you bring in at the end of the year, one's going to be left. Why is that? We don't do a good job of nurturing or farming the accounts that we have. We get an account in, we get comfortable with it. We go, oh, they'll understand. I'm not going to return that phone call as quickly. I'm going to sit on this till tomorrow. And then that client goes away because some other hunter came in and grabbed that business away from you.
That was one of the stats that surprised me when I first started writing about this way back in 2004 and 5 is the number of firms that 80% of their revenue came from a single client, contract firms. And that was actually my experience working and talking to so many of them. They were dependent on that client. You're like, well, what are you doing with the rest of it? Because it's difficult to put that time. Because of course, where do you put your best BAs? Where do you put your best tech people? If you have a great developer, who are you going to give that to? That was always a concern. But then you go back when you go start a company, you go look at all the old contracts that are signed, and these weren't in those days. Contracts weren't yearly; like you just sign it and stuck there forever. It was really before they had everybody had preferred vendors and stuff like that. And so there was so much in that database that you could mine, and you realize, wow, we used to work with A.G. Edwards years ago. I have a contract. All I got to do is knock on that door, and I'm set. Because the hardest thing now, if you're working for big companies, is it can take 6 to 9 months to do a scope of work, to plan it out. They have the insurance. It takes an enormous amount of time to people to onboard stuff through finance.
Well, it depends if your target is are those big companies. But again, let's look at the market. Most of the market, most so about 80% of staffing agencies are doing less than 10 million in revenue, and most of that business comes from small to mid-sized companies they're staffing for. Now, there's really two ways you can build an agency. You can have 80%, as you were talking about. You got 80% of your business in one account, and you're feeding the beast, and you make money doing that. It's high risk because what happens if there's a downturn, or all of a sudden, that company gets through their busy season, and you're looking up and you're going, "Oh my gosh, my business just crashed by 80%." You can do it that way. And in some ways, that's an easier way to run an office. The other way, the hard way, and I've done both, is where you've got, 50 accounts you're billing out every single week. However, those are onesie twosies. Maybe you have an average of 2 to 3 people at each account. On paper, it looks great because you're very balanced, but you're having to take care of and nurture 50 different accounts. So it's about 150 relationships. Average 3 relationships per account that you're going to have to interact with, from the front desk person to the hiring manager to the ops manager, the accounting person, whomever. And so it's much more intense. You get a lot more stability, but it's a lot of hard work. And that's why you see that. You see, oh my gosh, why do all these agencies have 80% of their business in one account? It's because that account hit where focus goes, energy flows, and so they fed the beast. Versus, hey, I'm going to build a nice, steady, clean book of business. You can do that, but you have to maintain the relationship. You have to focus on maintaining all those. Otherwise, it goes away. I don't care if you could be the best recruiter in the business. If you're not maintaining that relationship, it's going to go away. Relationship with the client.